Spine-chilling secrets revealed. 12 souls missing in the haunted Appalachian Mountains. The chilling wind howled through the narrow streets of Hollow Ridge, shaking the rusty signs that hung from worn-out buildings. Whispers of the 12 missing souls echoed through the townsfolk's murmurings, setting a blanket of dread over everything. Sarah, a single mother battling the bitter chill of life, felt it coil in her gut like an unseen serpent. She blinked against the darkness that enveloped her humble home, the streetlights flickering ominously. How could a place once painted with love and laughter now wear such a shroud of fear? After a grueling shift at the diner, where she poured coffee for grizzled truckers and served greasy pie to the few locals still willing to eat, she returned home only to be swallowed by the inky shadows. Ethan was still awake, the sound of his laughter having faded into the background music of the evening. With each step towards their doorway, her heart raced, pounding in her ears. That terrible chill seeped deeper, whispering threats as her hands trembled against the doorknob. Something was wrong. The creak of the door revealed a darkened hallway, walls looming like wary sentinels. The familiar clang of the wind chimes sounded almost mocking in the silence. She hurried towards Ethan's room, intuition screaming at her. But it wasn't just a parent's instinct, it was the knot of growing dread tightening around her heart. Ethan's bed lay empty, covers tossed aside. Panic surged through her veins. Where could he be? Her mind flashed back to earlier that day. He had been outside with little Tommy kicking around that red ball. Shoulders bunching tight, she stepped back into the dark room. The shadows danced, shifting closer with every breath. And then her eyes caught sight of it, the faded red ball resting alone. An unsettling token that felt far too heavy for its size. How had Tommy vanished? His parents, usually so alert, must have noticed by now. But as she rushed to the police station, a sense of dread unfurled. The police shrugged it off, giving her apathetic looks, as if a child disappearing was merely a Tuesday inconvenience. The town elders gathered in hushed conversations at the library, whispering like specters amongst the books. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah's legs felt weak as she wandered through the treacherous shadows of the forest bordering their town. Trees twisted into grotesque shapes. Sounds of rustling leaves merged with the eerie silence, each snap echoing like a gunshot in her mind. As she tread deeper, her heart raced. This was no ordinary place. Folklore wrapped around Hollow Ridge like a serpent, tales of dark rituals and lost children clawing at her sanity. Each shadow felt alive and intent on consuming her. What if her neighbors, people she shared coffee with, trusted with her secrets, were the roots of this dark omen? Her fingers trembled against her side, the weight of truth bearing down on her as she stumbled back onto the path. Frantically, she racked her brain for pieces, unraveling connections that led back to the very heart of her town's founding. Hand shaking, she traced her finger over the gathering night. Was this darkness tethered to them? To her? Did the looming figures beyond her window see what she couldn't see? Fear wrapped around her like a vice. Was this where her story would end, lost among the shadows of Hollow Ridge, mere echoes in the wind? Or could she uncover a way to turn the tide before it carried her son away too? The chill deepened, coiling around Sarah as she fought against the creeping shadows. The trees seemed to close in, their gnarled limbs reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with tension, and the wind's moans transformed into whispers, chilling fragments of stories left untold. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but Ethan's face danced in her mind, desperate for her rescue. No more running. She had to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. The forest felt alive, watching her, judging whether she was worthy of passing through. With each crunch of twigs underneath her feet, she imagined the eyes of lost souls lurking just beyond her vision. Were they warning her, crying for help? Then, a faint sound floated to her on the breeze. It was laughter, the sweet, innocent kind. Ethan's unmistakable giggle echoed from deeper inside the woods, a siren-esque call wrapped in the haunting reality of dread. Her heart seized. Why would he be laughing? Ethan, she shouted, her voice cracking. There was silence, then silence more profound than before, pressing against her ears. Panic surged again, sending a wild surge of adrenaline coursing through her. Ethan, she cried louder now, pushing forward despite the prickling sensation crawling up her neck. The forest deepened around her, shadows weaving like a tapestry of nightmares. With each step, the laughter morphed into a chilling echo, circling around like a predator. Was it Ethan she heard or something else? The thought turned her blood to ice. She stumbled through the underbrush, catching glimpses of movement out of the corner of her eye. Hushed figures shifting, their faces obscured in darkness. Were they watching? Were they shaping the darkness? As fear washed over her, she recalled the town's whisper stories that had twisted through generations, woven into their very fabric. Legend spoke of a forest spirit, the keeper of souls, who whisked away misfits and children. A cold shudder ran down her spine, the folklore surfacing with horrifying clarity. The stories had always been dismissed, kept as fanciful tales for children to frighten each other with during sleepovers. But this wasn't fantasy. The children were disappearing, and the more she delved into the woods, the more she understood. Suddenly, her foot snagged in a thick vine, sending her sprawling to the ground. Pain shot through her ankle, but she gritted her teeth, clutching the damp soil. From her new vantage point, she saw the red ball rolling to a halt nearby, the fading color vivid against the underbrush. It drew her closer, forcing her to confront the truth. This was no ordinary ball. It was a beacon, a link between those who had vanished and the living, pulling her deeper. The laughter returned, hauntingly closer, and the somber atmosphere throbbed with an energy that sent her heart racing. She scrambled to her feet, trying to shake off the haze of fear that clouded her thoughts, but it gripped her tight as she sensed the presence of others. She wasn't alone. Ethan, she screamed again, terror twisting in her chest like a vice. The laughter morphed again, turning into a chorus of taunting giggles, swirling and echoing like an unsettled choir. What was this place? What had happened to her boy? Was he among this unholy gathering lost to her forever? Then, a figure emerged from the shadows, small and fragile-looking, beckoning her. Just beyond them, something darker loomed, thick and suffocating, a presence that felt ancient. With her heart pounding, Sarah took a faltering step back. But she heard it, the soft whisper of a name through the howling forest. Mom, what lay ahead? Was this the key to finding Ethan? Or was she stepping into a snare from which there would be no escape? As the tiny figure darted back into the shadows, Sarah's heart raced faster. Her breath came in short gasps, punctuated by the manic beat of her pulse. Every instinct screamed to turn and run, but the whisper of her son's name anchored her feet to the ground. Would he emerge next? Would she find Ethan waiting for her? Or were the shadows lying in wait, prepared to swallow her whole? The taunting laughter transformed again, shifting to a stream of whispers, voices overlapping as if the very spirits of the forest were clamoring for her attention. Come play with us, join us. The words slithered around her, scratching at her sanity. Her pulse quickened with each syllable, her limbs tingling with a mix of fear and a strange, morbid curiosity. She pressed forward, determined to brave what lay deeper within the woods. The underbrush had a life of its own, damp fingers tugging at her clothes, pulling her toward a thick clump of trees. She stumbled, barely maintaining her balance, and finally reached a clearing bathed in a milky, eerie light unlike anything she had seen before. The ground beneath her feet felt soft, almost like flesh, pulsating with a rhythm that matched her racing heart. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, plunging the clearing into suffocating silence. For a moment, the world around her seemed to hold its breath. It was as if the forest was waiting for something, a sacrifice perhaps. In the center of the clearing lay a small stone altar, ancient moss clinging to its surface, worn by time. Whoever had come before her had offered something here, blood or dreams she couldn't tell. And just then, she saw them. Faces emerging like the morning fog. They were children, their eyes wide and staring but lacking the spark of life. There were so many of them. Their small bodies moved with an ethereal grace, hovering just above the ground, seamlessly blending with the shadows. Sarah's heart sank. Each face displayed an expression of longing, a plea for help etched into their pale features. It was as though they reached for her, drawing her nearer, begging her to understand. "Help us," they whispered, their voices a jumbled echo, each child a story lost to time. "Ethan," she cried again, desperation clawing at her throat. She searched the sea of faces, her heart flipping as hope flickered momentarily, but he was not among them. Were they the children caught in the same fate, held prisoner by the forest's dark pull? What had happened to the laughter she heard earlier? A shift in the atmosphere sent a chill skittering down her spine. The ancient presence stirred. An overwhelming sense of foreboding wrapped around her like chains. A dark silhouette began to manifest behind the altar. The air thickened with dread, shrouding the clearing in an almost tangible darkness. "Leave now," a voice rumbled, deep and powerful, shaking the very ground she stood on. The Keeper of Souls had arrived. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet fear held her rooted in place. The whispers ricocheted off trees, drowning her in despair. Suddenly, one of the children took a step toward her, its hand outstretched. "You can save us, find him." In that moment, Sarah froze, caught between two worlds, the living and the lost. A choice lay heavy in the air. Would she abandon the children to delve further into the shadows to save her son? Or would she attempt to free them all from the forest's grasp? Just as she made up her mind, the ground beneath her trembled. The darkness threatened to spill over, swallowing her whole. A new, piercing scream filled the air, unmistakable and laced with panic, a childish scream. "Mom, was it Ethan?" Sarah took a step back, the weight of the choice clawing at her. The very heart of the forest pulsed around her, and she knew, whatever path she chose, there would be no turning back. What haunting truth would unfold? Would she face the Keeper of Souls and risk becoming one of them? Or was there a way to save Ethan before the darkness claimed her too? The scream echoed, a hollow sound laced with torment that twisted Sarah's gut. "Mom," it was unmistakably Ethan. The pain in his voice drove her desperation deeper, a blade sheathed in urgency. Thoughts scrambled in her mind, each demanding her attention. She could either save the scattered souls in front of her, or plunge further into the hollow darkness to find her son. "Ethan." She stepped forward, half torn by fear, half determined to locate him, the children's pleading eyes trailing her. They trembled, watching her leave. "Please help us," one whispered again, voice quavering, like autumn leaves caught in a gust. "I'll be right back, I promise," she muttered, though she didn't believe her own words. The laughter resumed, swirling in the air like a chilling wind, mocking her. Was it distraction or a warning? The shadows shifted, coiling at her feet as if alive, desperately trying to draw her back into their embrace. The Keeper of Souls loomed. The darkness surrounding him flickered with a life of its own. "You dare tread where the lost dwell?" The ground shuddered as if echoing his anger. "Go." A child's voice pierced through the laughter, cutting through the ethereal chaos. "He'll take you too." Panic ignited in Sarah, fueling a surge of adrenaline. Mustering her courage, she turned away from the altar and dashed toward the direction of the scream. The underbrush clawed at her as she navigated through the overwhelming darkness. "Ethan, where are you?" Each step echoed with uncertainty, each heartbeat thunderous in her ears. Shadows morphed around her, flitting just out of view. Then, from deep within the dark, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a small figure, hunched and trembling. Could it be him? "Ethan," she called again, her voice strained, desperate. The figure turned, pale skin, hollow cheeks, and familiar wide eyes. It was him, but the resemblance felt distorted, twisted by a haunting energy that surrounded him. "Ethan." She rushed forward, arms outstretched. But the closer she got, the more the figure seemed to dissolve into mist. Her heart sank as icy fingers of dread wrapped around her. Mom helped distraught, he reached for her, but it felt as though a chasm divided them. Each step she took diminished him, the darkness thickening almost like a fog, a barrier closing in. What is happening? The questions tumbled out, clamoring for answers. Ethan, fight it! Wisps of shadow danced around him, as if eager to envelop him completely. A glint appeared in his eyes, pure terror. Don't let them take me. Then, with a swift move, he vanished like smoke swirling into nothingness, leaving Sarah breathless and horrified. Everything shifted at once, the children's whispers now rising into an anguished chorus, rising and swirling around her like a cyclone. From the depths of the woods, the Keeper of Souls laughed, a sound that chilled her bones. You sought to save him, but the forest demands a price. Panic surged within her. She could barely breathe as the shadows encroached closer, a looming threat wrapping tighter around her. I'll save him, she shouted defiantly at the gathering darkness. But could she handle the truth behind the Keeper's words? What price would the forest demand? The Keeper's laughter fluttered through the trees, melding with the whispers until it felt like the very air was full of foreboding. With a heavy heart, she felt the ground tremble beneath her, the realization dawning that to find Ethan, she might have to confront something far darker than she could imagine, a choice that could seal her fate. Mom, that haunting voice called again, and in that moment, something deep inside Sarah ignited. But could she navigate the dark maze surrounding her? Was finding Ethan worth the sacrifice that loomed ahead? The darkness closed in tighter, wrapping around Sarah like a suffocating blanket. The whispers of the lost children grew louder, a cacophony of despair clawing at her sanity. Help us! Save us! They cried, their voices entwining with her own frantic thoughts. She could barely hold onto the glimmer of hope that finding Ethan was still possible. With each step, the ground pulsed beneath her, almost as if it was alive. Roots like tendrils snaked out, grasping her ankles, trying to pull her down into the earth itself. No, she shouted, tearing herself free. But the effort drained her, each movement demanding more strength than she had left. Ethan, she screamed again, her fear spilling over into a raw desperation. The moon hung like a distant eye, casting eerie shadows that danced and flickered. Then, from behind a gnarled tree, something shifted. Her heart jolted in her chest. Mom! The voice sliced through the night once more, a beacon leading her onward. Sarah sprinted towards the sound, the terrain shifting beneath her. As she approached the tree, an unsettling sensation gripped her, a reminder that the forest had become a living entity, one determined to keep her from Ethan. Shadows surged forward, swirling around her limbs like dark fog, clawing at her resolve. She fought against them, wrestling her way to the tree, its bark exuding a sinister aura. And no, don't take me! A shrill voice screamed nearby, echoing Ethan's dread. The sound reverberated through her, igniting a raw, primal fear. Was he somewhere here in the dark, trapped by the Keeper's hand? Ethan, she shouted, but her voice quavered, doubt gnawing at her. How could she save him if the shadows were so ferocious? And then, through the veil of darkness, a flicker of light captured her attention, something soft and warm against the freezing grip of fear. She stumbled toward it, a single white feather drifting down from above, glowing in the darkness. It was an odd sight amidst the gloom, calling her like a moth to a flame. Ethan? She reached for it, her fingers brushing against the feather. A tingle shot up her arm. Suddenly, she felt a rush of memories flood her, images of days gone by, the sound of laughter, the warmth of hugs, the scent of grass after rain. But then the laughter morphed into screams. Chains rattled in the distance, and dark shapes began to form from the mist, their faces twisted in terror. They were the lost souls, their eyes hollow yet pleading. Join us, they chanted, weaving around her like a macabre dance. No, I will find my son, Sarah yelled, determination bolstering her resolve. She tore her gaze away from the haunting figures and focused on the glowing feather, believing it was a key to Ethan's return. The keeper's laughter rang out again, echoing through the trees, chilling her to the bone. You'll pay dearly for the truth, moth to the flame. A sudden stillness enveloped her. The wind ceased, and shadows pulled back like curtains revealing a forgotten path, illuminated by the feather's glow. It beckoned her deeper into the forest's heart, where Ethan's cries echoed like a siren song. With the weight of urgency crushing her chest, Sarah knew she had to decide. Follow the trail towards the light or remain tethered to the darkness, risking everything for a chance to save her son. As she took her first step onto the revealed path, the ground trembled again, and she heard a heartbeat, a low, growling sound reverberating from the shadows. It was not merely the keeper. Something far more sinister was lurking, waiting in the depths, promising to drag her down if she ventured further. Ethan, she called, but now fear mingled with uncertainty. What would she truly find in the darkness? And what price would the forest demand in return? As she moved deeper into the unknown, the shadows flickered, hinting at secrets long buried. Would the path lead her to Ethan or expose her to a far darker truth? The path twisted and turned, the trees looming like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching for her like skeletal hands. Each step felt heavier than the last, a weight pressing against her chest, making it harder to breathe. The glow of the feather illuminated her way, but shadows writhed eagerly at its edges, eager to reclaim her. Ethan, she yelled, voice trembling, the name slipping through her fingers like sand. The darkness thickened, stifling her cries. Instinctively, she pressed forward, compelled by something she couldn't name, a pull from the depths of the forest that was as dreadful as it was enticing. Then she heard it again, a soft whimper, followed by a desperate, "Mom!" The sound knifed through the air, sharper than any knife, slicing through panic and igniting her hope into a raging fire. She ran, propelled by the sheer force of a mother's love, and every agonizing heartbeat pushed her onward, deeper into the forest. With each step, the woods grew more alive, a sinister hum thrumming beneath her feet. The heartbeat she had heard earlier surged back, louder now, reverberating in sync with her own. It was dissonant and cruel, a reminder of threats hidden just beneath her awareness. Were they watching, waiting for her to falter? "Mom, help me!" The voice rang out again, much closer this time. It was almost tangible, a hope wrapped in despair. Sarah darted around a stunted tree, her heart racing, but found herself face to face with a figure cloaked in darkness, the keeper. A shudder coursed through her as she stood frozen. The keeper's eyes glistened with malice in the dim light, reflecting back her terror. "You think you can save him?" it hissed, mocking her with a voice layered with echoing whispers. "Let him go," Sarah shouted, but even as the words left her lips, she felt an unnatural chill wrap around her bones, as if the forest itself were clutching at her, its cold breath whispering doubts into her ears. "Your son is lost. One of many," the keeper taunted, waving a skeletal hand towards a flurry of shadows that slid through the trees. Faces twisted in agony flickered in and out of the dark, children who had met the same fate, their cries merging with Ethan's. "No," Sarah choked, stepping back. She grasped the feather tightly in her hand, its warmth fading as terror clawed at her heart. "Yes, alive. I'll find him. Will you, though?" The keeper laughed, the sound chilling her blood. "The forest hungers, and you are merely its next meal." Suddenly, the forest erupted around her, trees shaking as if they de-awakened from a deep slumber. The shadows coiled tighter, like serpents ready to strike. In that moment, Sarah felt it, a gnawing realization. The forest had been feeding all along, not just on lost souls but on everything she held dear. "Ethan!" she screamed, a mixture of fury and grief coursing through her. The darkness answered with a rumbling growl, the ground vibrating violently beneath her feet. Just as she thought all hope was lost, the feather flared brightly, illuminating the forest in a blaze of white light. The shadows recoiled, hissing, revealing what lay ahead. A tiny figure was trapped in a thicket, struggling against the roots that bound him. "Mom! Help!" It was Ethan. But the keeper's laugh echoed louder, drowning out her hope. "You can't save him without offering something in return. What are you willing to lose, child?" The air thickened with the weight of her choices. Would she sacrifice herself for Ethan? Was she ready to face the abyss in exchange for her boy? With shadows closing in, Sarah had only moments to decide. She lunged forward, desperate to reach Ethan. Realizing the forest wasn't merely a trap, it was a puzzle. Would she uncover its secret, or would her gears be slowly chewed away into obscurity? As the feather began to flicker, Sarah fought against despair. The world around her seemed to blur, and in the depths of her heart, a chilling thought lingered. What if the cost of saving Ethan was far greater than she could imagine? The shadows pulsed, and in the echo of their chant, a single word whispered through the air: betrayal. What awaited her beyond the next turn of fate, where light met darkness? The decision loomed, heavy and unyielding. Ethan's voice was the lifeline she clung to, the last shred of hope in an ever-darkening landscape. Sarah felt the pull of the thicket where he struggled, but the shadows writhed like predators, ready to ensnare her in their suffocating grasp. The keeper loomed over her, its skeletal form gleaming faintly in the ghostly glow of the feather, every inch of it pulsating with malignant glee. "Time is slipping away," it crooned, voice dripping with menace. Shadows rushed past her like whispers of dread. "What will you trade for your beloved?" "No," she gasped, desperation fueling her will to fight back. "I'll never trade my son for anything." Yet, doubt seeped into her mind like a creeping mist. "What have you lost already?" the keeper mocked. "When did you last see your boy laugh? The trade is already made in your heart. You simply need to acknowledge it." The trees thrashed around her, their bark peeling like old skin, jagged edges glimmering with an unsettling darkness. For an instant, Sarah thought she glimpsed shapes within, shadowy figures with echoes of innocence. "Mom, I can't." Ethan's plea was cut short, swallowed by the raucous rustling of the forest closing in on her. She took a deep breath, heart pounding like a war drum. How could she save him? Each second felt like hours, the very air thickening with anticipation and dread. "Ethan, hold on. I'm coming." She lunged forward, eyes locked on her son, her mind racing through every potential consequence. Would he be forced to stay here, lost eternally in this nightmare? The roots that bound him seemed to writhe in response to her approach, as if the forest itself were enraged by her audacity to challenge it. As she reached for Ethan, the feather's light pulsed in intensity, illuminating the twisted and gnarled roots constricting him. "Let him go," she screamed, every ounce of hate directed at the keeper. But the keeper merely tilted its head, a ghastly grin stretching its lips. "And let you become a part of this dark tapestry? Oh no, that would be far too easy." In that moment, the shadows around her roared, a symphony of whispers that clawed at her sanity. What would she sacrifice? What price for her son's freedom? Ringing in her ears was the chant of betrayal, growing louder. "You must make a choice, your essence or his life." No, she could never choose that. Tears blurred her vision, but she couldn't falter. She grabbed the feather tighter. The warmth seemed to push back against the chill that enveloped her. "Ethan," she cried again, feeling the pull of the thicket growing stronger. She could almost reach him, just a couple more steps, and then the whispers turned to screams. The shadows surged, drowning out her thoughts, merging them into one overwhelming sense of panic. "Let me in," they wailed, voices all around her, a cacophony of lament. Time fractured in her mind as the forest twisted. The keeper's eyes glimmered darkly, reflecting her spiraling fear. "You do not know what you fight against." Suddenly, the feather flickered violently, bathing her in a luminous glow as tendrils of darkness reached for it like desperate hands grasping for the last flicker of light. Could it truly protect her? Was it also part of the deception? "Sarah." Ethan's voice echoed with unbearable urgency. "Please, I'm scared. Don't leave me." She stepped closer, heart racing, determination mingling with dread. Was this the moment she would break or fight? Then, from the darkness, she saw them. Faces of other children, twisted in despair, their eyes pleading, their mouths open in scream, lost and waiting. And as she reached toward Ethan, shadows lashed out, binding her feet, pulling her down into the abyss. A final thought struck her like lightning. What if rescuing Ethan meant becoming part of the forest's insatiable hunger, just like all the others? Each heartbeat pulsed a question haunting her. Would she betray herself to save her son? The darkness closed in, suffocating, and as her mind teetered on the brink, the echo of her choice lingered what awaited them in this twisted fate. As choices spun into webs of darkness, would the truth about the forest tear them apart? The shadows twisted around Sarah, gnawing at her sanity as they dragged her deeper into the suffocating embrace of the forest. Panic coursed through her veins, heart racing out of control. The roots tightened like vice grips, anchoring her to the ground while the screams of the forest crescendoed all around her. Ethan, stay strong, she cried, forcing her voice through the oppressive darkness. The sound bounced back at her, a cruel mimicry that sent chills racing down her spine. The keeper stood just out of reach, a demonic puppet master reveling in her fear. You still have time, it taunted, voice slithering into her mind and coiling around her thoughts. She felt the pull of despair, a sharp blade that sliced through her defiance. What is your price? Her voice trembled, a whisper almost lost to the malevolent wind. What do you want from me? The keeper grinned, its jaw unhinging like a nightmarish marionette. To know true loss, to taste despair. Your heart already holds the key. The shadows seemed to swell, demanding her to succumb, to surrender hope for the sake of survival. Then, the feather in her hand pulsed again, a blinding light cutting through the swirling gloom. No! The keeper recoiled, but the tendrils of darkness had already accessorized themselves around Sarah's legs, gripping tighter as if her defiance made them furious. With every ounce of strength, she pushed against the darkness. I won't give in. Not to you. And with one fierce yank, she ripped the grasping roots apart, freeing her feet. Ethan's voice trembled through the chaos. Mom, please, it's too late for me. His panic folded into a chilling resonance, filling her with an icy dread. The air was heavy, thick with despair, a palpable entity drawn to her sorrow. No, she gasped, her eyes darting through the thicket. She could almost see him, tangled and afraid, trapped in the heart of despair. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. Every choice has a consequence, the keeper warned, closing the distance between them with agonizing slowness. Even the ones you don't make. Images flashed in Sarah's mind, Ethan's laughter echoing in sunlit parks, the echo of his tiny footsteps pattering on hardwood floors, and the warmth of his hugs. Each memory tugged at her heart, binding her to a past she desperately wanted to keep. But the forests feasted on memories like vultures, waiting to consume. You need to decide. It hissed, moving closer, shadows spilling over the ground, encroaching on her sanity. Betrayal for freedom, sacrifice for survival. The last echoes of laughter morphed into cries of pain, and the children's faces twisted in her mind, their hollow eyes pleading. Could she trade her essence for Ethan's life? Would she become another whisper in the forest, another voice lost to the void? Mom! His cry popped her thoughts like a bubble, raw, desperate. Please, I'm so scared. I don't want to be here. Sarah's resolve cracked. I will find you, she vowed, locking her gaze with the skeletal monstrosity. I'd trade my very soul before I let you take him. With that declaration, a deep howl erupted through the trees, shaking the ground beneath her. The keeper's smile faltered, revealing glimmering teeth as the shadows recoiled from the bright pulse of the feather. Yet hope flickered only tentatively. The momentary surge of strength quickly waned as the whispers intensified, renewed by her boldness. You do not know what you invoke, the keeper snarled. The ground trembled, splintering like glass beneath her, the trees recoiling with a cacophony of wails. Ethan! Sarah shouted, panic wrapping tighter around her heart. The wild rustling grew louder, taunting echoes of lost voices creating a haunting symphony. Could she truly navigate this darkness and save her son? Or would her choice call forth an even greater horror? In the very air tinged with dread, one question took root. How far was she willing to go to reclaim Ethan from the keeper's grasp? The ground cracked open beneath Sarah, a gaping maw echoing with the voices of the lost. Shadows surged, hungry and wild, weaving intricate patterns around her as if they were alive, each murmur promising a fate worse than death. She could feel the weight of despair pressing down on her, heavier than the darkness itself. "Ethan!" she screamed, her voice nearly drowned by the cacophony of the forest. She panted, heart hammering in her chest, a primal rhythm that urged her to flee. But there was no escape, not with her son trapped somewhere amid the chaos. The keeper was relentless, its presence wrapping around her like a shroud. Every heartbeat is a reminder. It hissed, its voice slithering through the branches and creeping into her ears. Each thud tells you how close you are to losing him forever. You can feel it, can't you? Terror coiled around her like the very roots that once held her down, squeezing until her breath caught in her throat. She turned, frantically searching for a glimpse of Ethan, for a sliver of light in this all-consuming darkness. "Please, just let him go," she pleaded, but her words only fed the keeper's amusement. "You cannot bargain with shadows, child. They are inherently greedy." The keeper stepped forward, its features sharp and glistening beneath the light of the feather. It leaned closer, an unearthed graveyard of eyes glinting in the pale glow, promising knowledge of darkness unfathomable. Sarah forced herself to stand her ground, the feather vibrating with warmth in her palm. "You think you know pain?" she challenged. "You think you can take what I love and walk away unscathed?" The keeper leaned back, a sinister grin stretching across its elongated face. "Oh, but dear Sarah, you misunderstand. Pain is not what I seek. I crave something sweeter, sorrow with an exquisite flavor." She felt her heart plunge further into despair as remnants of her happiest memories flitted before her eyes. Ethan climbing trees, his giggles echoing like music in the air. "No," she gasped, shaking her head vigorously. "You'll not take those from me." With that, she clutched the feather tighter, drawing strength from her love. In her mind, images of Ethan filled her heart and, with a surge of adrenaline, she hurled the feather into the blackened abyss. Its light flared furiously, igniting the air, slicing through the shadows surrounding her. The cries morphed into shrieks, the darkness writhing as tendrils recoiled from the ferocity of the light. "Enough!" the keeper roared, its voice a thunderous quake that shook the very earth. "You think this is a game? Your defiance comes at a cost." Sarah felt the ground tremble violently, her body lifting slightly as the air thickened with raw energy. She steadied herself, merging her fear into a focused rage. "You will not take him." A cry echoed from the depths of her soul, stronger than the keeper's clutches. Above the chaos, she felt the flicker of a new energy. It thrummed, almost alive, resonating with the pulse of the forest, a symphony of voices melding together. Her heart raced not from fear this time, but from a burgeoning awareness. She wasn't alone. "Ethan?" she bellowed, fear replaced with determination. "Where are you?" The shadows thinned momentarily, revealing a glimpse of slumped shoulders and trembling hands peeking from behind gnarled roots. "Mom, I'm here." Ethan's voice broke through, a fragile thread of hope against the darkness. "Hold on," she cried, scrambling toward him, driven by fierce urgency. But as she stretched her hand to grasp his, the forest shrieked, and the keeper hurled itself forward, blocking her path. "Foolish woman," it screeched, its eyes ablaze with fury. "Your sacrifice will mean nothing if you choose to share his fate." Panic surged through Sarah as she felt an encroaching wave of despair, a last desperate grasp from the keeper that threatened to pull her into the void. Could she really reach him before it consumed them both? The ground trembled once more, fissures widening like dark mouths waiting to swallow all hope. What more could she give? Above the fear, an unsettling sensation gripped her, a revelation lurking just out of sight. Was it truly Ethan calling her? or just another trick from the shadows? Her voice quivered as she asked, paranoia creeping in. Ethan, is that really you? The world held its breath, the darkness swirling closer than ever before. Behind her, the keeper's laughter echoed, a chilling promise that tested her resolve. Would she risk everything this time without knowing the truth? Mom, please, I need you. Ethan's voice cut through the dark fog, a lifeline pulling her toward the light. Sarah's heart raced, determination coursing through her veins like a wildfire. No more hesitation. There would be no bargain with shadows. I'm coming, she yelled, steeling her resolve against the darkness that threatened to consume her whole. The keeper's menacing form towered between her and Ethan, a twisted figure of malice. You cannot save him, it sneered, darkness swirling in its wake, not without paying the price. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of despair clawing at her chest. I'll pay whatever it takes. You'll never take him from me. Such fire, the keeper hissed, its sharp grin widening. But remember, my dear, the cost of defiance is steep. With that, the shadows lunged, snatching at her legs, eager to drag her down into their despair. She felt herself slipping, the tendrils tightening, nearly pulling her back into the terrifying abyss. Not today, Sarah roared, channeling every ounce of love and fear for her son. She tore free from the chilling grip, pushing through the dark with fuels of determination. The light from the feather flickered in her hand, illuminating her path like a beacon in the night. With a burst of adrenaline, she surged forward, forcing the shadows to retreat. Ethan, she yelled again, spotting his form struggling against the dark roots, desperately trying to reach her. The forest trembled, a cacophony of whispers and children's cries echoing all around her. Each sound clawed at her heart, reminding her of the children lost. But she couldn't focus on the despair. She had to focus on Ethan. She could see them now, the dark roots of the forest coiling around her son like a serpent, binding him with chains of despair. Each clench of those roots felt like daggers, tearing at her heart. Hold on, my love. Before she could finish, the keeper swept along her line of sight, its eyes blazing. You want to save him? You must choose. I choose him. Determination filled her with strength, casting aside the shadows whispering doubt and dread. I'll risk everything. She felt the power of her love flood through her, igniting a fire fierce enough to fight back against the keeper's darkness. Such a foolish decision, the keeper growled, its voice a low rumble. You will not only sacrifice yourself. Sarah didn't listen, her entire focus aimed at Ethan. I will not let you win. I'm stronger than all of you combined. The keeper's laughter echoed in the air, manic and twisted. You think so? Then let us see if your love weighs more than your fears. With that, shadows coiled tighter, the roots wrapping their grip around her too. No, she pushed back against the pain, her memories of Ethan filling her heart with warmth, their picnics under sunlit trees, his laughter flowing like music in her ear. Each cherished moment fused together, solidifying her resolve. I'm coming, Ethan. In an instant, the light of the feather exploded, filling the clearing with an ethereal glow. Shadows retreated, shrieking in anger as if the very light burned them. But the keeper loomed, roaring with rage and despair. You think light can drive me out? Yes, Sarah shouted, charging through the last barrier of darkness. Ethan. The light flooded her vision, revealing Ethan tangled in the roots, eyes brimming with terror, yet full of hope. Mom, he cried, reaching out toward her. With a fierce scream, Sarah tore through the last remnants of shadow, wielding the feather's light like a sword against the keeper. The shadows flinched, shuddering in fear, allowing her to finally reach her son. Mom, please. It was raw and vulnerable, the sound of her son's voice anchoring her against the chaos. Hold on, together. Grasping his hands tightly in hers, she felt a rush of warmth as if their souls intertwined. With a powerful surge, Sarah yanked Ethan from his prison of roots, the light expanding like a wave, washing over them. The keeper shrieked in rage, the echoes of anguished voices twisted into agony. Now, Sarah shouted, pulling Ethan close as the light burst forth, engulfing them in a brilliant halo, banishing the darkness back into the depths from which it came. As the shadows dissolved around them, Ethan's frightened form began to glow with life once more. "We did it, Mom," he exclaimed, relief washing over his features. Together, she hugged him fiercely, relief flooding her heart. They were alive. They were free. The forest around them sighed, the trees settling back into their silence as the last remnants of darkness withdrew. The keeper's enraged howl faded into the depths of the forest, a promise that it would return. But they had won this battle. Amidst the calming winds, the moon shone brightly above, guiding them out of the forest and back to the world they cherished. Shadows shifted in the corners of her vision, but Sarah smiled, knowing they had overcome the darkness together. "Promise you'll never let me go again," Ethan said, looking up at her. "Never," she said, her heart swelling with devotion. "I'll always fight for you." As they made their way back to Hollow Ridge, leaving the haunted forest far behind, Sarah felt a sense of peace settle around them like a warm embrace. They had faced unimaginable fear and darkness, but what lay ahead was filled with hope, laughter, and a love that would outshine any shadows that dared to return. And as they walked hand in hand, the glow of the feather, their strength still flickering in her grasp, reminded them both that they were never truly alone. The bond they shared could withstand anything. Now that you're here at the end, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Trust me, you're going to want to be part of this journey. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help shape the channel. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. Your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this epic finale. Let us spread the love and storytelling power together.